Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We are here in our new studio.
Woohoo!
Pretty exciting. But we wanted to start things off with doing a message recap of the message we had this past Sunday, which we started a brand new series called The Search.
Yep.
And your first message that you gave was about God's love for us. And this is kind of the search for acceptance and how maybe we could push that search down if we realized how much God actually loves us.
Yeah, for sure. I think acceptance is something that every single person deals with, and it might look different ways. We might, we were talking before the cameras were rolling, like, is this more of a male-female issue?
Yeah.
I think it's a both. It just looks different in the places we search for acceptance,
Yeah. Even when you were talking in the message, what went through my mind was, wow, all the things we do. And I was just when you were talking, I was just putting those together in my mind that, yeah, wow, why do we wear certain clothes? Why do we want a certain image? Why do we have our hair a certain way? And it really all comes down to acceptance. We say, well, this is my personal life.
Yeah.
Might be, but if everybody else didn't, you probably would change it. This idea for acceptance starts, very, very young and goes and doesn't stop when we're adults. It goes on, which you made very, very clear. And I was just thinking about how many things could I identify in my own life that I do because I'm looking for acceptance or people's approval. Same thing. But aren't we looking for approval? You mentioned your kids asking, did I do a good job? I just want, I am 59 years old.
Yep.
I still ask that question.
So I probably don't ask it verbally as much anymore, but that's always going in the back of my head. When I do stuff at work or I talked about my lawnmower. I cut my front lawn a certain way because I don't want it to look crappy, because I want people to drive by and be like, oh yeah, that's a nice lawn.
I'll bet anything. You walk in the house and go, hey, Casey, look at the grass. What do you think?
She likes mowing the lawn, so I let her do everything the public can't see.
Okay.
He doesn't tell her to look at the lawn. He just stands in the window and,
okay,
that looks good.
that is an honest thing that has happened. I've really done that,
Yeah.
But in all sorts of different areas, I want acceptance at my job. I want, I don't want to go out into the world and.
So something that I've kind of noticed in people, and that is this, and I kind of worded it this way, that if you can't compete, you don't even try. And I saw this just raising my kids and different things, that if they'll try something and go, I can't compete with that sport thing, or I can't compete looking like them people, I can't compete. What I've noticed is if they can't compete, they go the opposite direction.
Totally true.
And isn't that all about acceptance?
Mm-hmm. For sure. I was the same way in high school. Like, I did not really engage in sports very much because that's not my gifting. And I think you can see that in a lot of, I mentioned it in the message, this whole self-identify movement.
Yep.
I really think that is the root cause that a lot of people that, well, I identify as this or I identify as this. I think that's really the thing. Like, I don't fit in. I feel something different. I like something different. I don't fit in, I don't want to say normal culture, but like, I don't fit in any of the established groups already. And so because that need for approval is so strong, I have to do something about it.
Yeah. And so you go the opposite direction and find something that, well, I can be good at this, or I'll make up something that I'm good at. I'm in my own group.
And you even talked about in the message, you said some people are so far removed from acceptance that they create their own acceptance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And then you get into the whole, like, if there's a need, you try and fill it with drugs and alcohol and all that sort of stuff. But this approval thing is definitely, it's a major, I think, for human beings.
Yeah.
So
I've heard it a different way, maybe a non-spiritual way, and that is everybody's looking for a that-a-boy.
Yep.
And it's the same. Isn't that true? We're looking for a that-a-boy, and that is acceptance. It's right down to acceptance.
For sure.
That is very true.
Yeah, and what we do for that. And this might sound really cheap, but I don't know if you guys have done this, but have you ever just came out and told somebody, I need you to tell me I did a good job? Yeah, I've done that. I feel I can sense the need and say, whether you think so or not, will you just tell me I did a good job?
I'm from Minnesota, so automatically I don't come right out and say it.
Anything.
I say something like, well, I'm really glad I took the time to do that, or, oh, I'm really got with the person in earshot. So, that's how Minnesotans
It's half
do it.
under my breath, but half loud enough so that you'll get the hint. No,
yeah.
my personality type is you better notice, and if not, I'm going to secretly get angry at you until you do.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah. We can talk about that
It
on
seems-
a whole nother day.
It seems passive and aggressive at the same time.
That's another episode. We'll get Michelle up here and maybe
She
help
can
us
counsel me.
Oh boy. Okay, so acceptance. We're searching for it, and then you mentioned in the message where do we go from there? If we're constantly searching for acceptance, how do we kind of level that search?
Yeah, well, that was really the point of the whole message, is that God accepts us. No
matter what.
No matter what. Now, God doesn't necessarily accept of everything we do.
Yeah.
He doesn't approve of all of our actions. But as far as who we are, that we are created in his image, that he created us on purpose, all that, that big list of things that showed up
Yep.
around my head, God totally accepts you and loves you unconditionally. I think the more that we can start to understand his love, that it's not dependent on what I wear, my job, whether the lines in my lawn are straight or not.
And I think unconditional is the huge word right there, because there's not many earthly things where we find unconditional love.
I don't believe there's any.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever been. None of us have been in a relationship that maybe people have said, "I love you unconditionally." That's just not true. Nobody. I don't think humans.
They'll
have the
say that,
ability.
but there's still, when there's an argument or where there's a fight, there's still tension, and that, even if it lasts for 2 minutes, 2 seconds, that tension is not there with God.
Yes.
And
I think that's
he never says, "I just need to take a minute from you because you're being a total jerk."
So, you had this message about it, and I think it's so right on. It's hard for us to conceive, to really grasp. You told us the truth. It's hard for us to grasp God loves me even though he knows my secrets. God accepts me because he created me, not because of what I do. I do everything wrong. And so we sometimes feel shame, or we feel like we've disappointed God, and therefore we feel guilty. But what you're suggesting is that is not true. How do we get to that point of, okay, that's true, but I don't believe it's true? How do we get to the point where, I know that's true?
Yeah. So I used to feel that way a long time. Like God loves me, but he's disappointed, or I got to feel guilty, And I've probably said this 50 times in the last 2 years, but I always go back to something you said probably 10 years ago when I first started working in the church. Talk to God in the middle of your sin. And like that practice has been so beneficial for me it started off as forcing that conversation, not shutting him out, and saying, "God, thank you for loving me, even though in my anger right now, I know that I'm sinning, even though in my pride right now, I know, even though that I just flipped that person, whatever those different sins are." Making that conversation happen from my end has been hugely beneficial, because the longer I've done that now in my life, the less of an issue it is for me, at least for me anyway.
So what I hear you saying is the way to get from I know it's true but I don't believe it to getting to I experience it and believe it is just keep doing it. Is that what you just
don't keep sinning?
No. Keep
Yeah.
approaching God.
For sure.
Keep going to God, even in a sin that we feel totally guilty about. Like, I know I did something really bad and I did it on purpose, but to go to God that and explain and be honest with God.
Totally.
Just honest.
Well,
This is how I feel, but
that's why it's important to read the Bible off, even if you know stuff that's in there, just to remind yourself of that truth. But I find that personal, God, I'm going to talk to you literally in the middle of it, has been super beneficial for my relationship with God.
Well, and I mean, and you touch on this, but it's also continuously seeking after that relationship and spending time with God. That's when we can kind of realize that search has been eliminated, because all we're going to find in return is the unconditional love and acceptance that we want.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think getting there, it's one thing to, to just do sermons or to say this, but to actually, the point that you're trying to create, and I think the point of this whole series, all of them exactly, but is, hey, we want this to make a difference in lives. You know, to actually not for people to learn something new, but to actually experience God.
For sure. Because that will change your life. You don't have to search and strive and make it up and all that stuff later on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway,
good.
That.
Man, I think it's very helpful, and I hope it helps people in their lives.
Yeah.
And watch the message again.
Absolutely. You are loved by God, and you can go back on our YouTube. You can watch that message. We understand that there's way more than just 11 minutes that can be unfolded in one topic. So that's why we like to do this recap. So go back and watch that, and make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with more.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
That's it.
Have a great day.